obtaining the inherent right of the Iranian nation to have peaceful nuclear energy.
So outrage at the UN General Assembly. Iran's president addressing the annual meeting and also offering a very thinly veiled threat to Americans regarding the assassination of General Qasem Soleimani. Iran's aggression protested outside the UN headquarters this week as well, as the Biden administration hands the regime $6 billion in additional resources. Joining us now is retired U.S. Air Force Brigadier General, U.S. Deputy Military Rep to NATO, and also a Newsmax contributor, Blaine Holt. Always a pleasure. Also joining us is retired Air Force Special Operations Commander and National Security expert Glenn Ignazio. Appreciate you both being here. This is a big week here in New York City. Obviously, the congestion was a big thing for a lot of New Yorkers. But, General, I want to get to this serious story, though, about this threat. He had this to say. This is the quote. The Islamic Republic of Iran, through all tools and capacities in order to bring to justice the perpetrators and all of those who had a hand in this government-sanctioned act of terror, will not sit until that is done. The blood of the oppressed will not be forgotten. So your reaction to that, General Holt?
Well, we forgot the last three words, and it was he said it with a straight face. So the problem is this is a thugocracy that we have actually validated. The regime is holding a great people, the Iranian people, captive and hijacked. They foment terrorism around the world. They foment terrorism just on our southern border. And our administration, the failed national security team, has essentially awarded them with $6 billion that relying on Qatar to say, oh, it'll only be used for humanitarian resources. But the supreme leader himself said, we're going to spend this money on whatever we want to spend it on, which means nuclear weapons. And then Saudi Arabia turned right around and said, look, if they're going to get that bomb, we're going to get that bomb. And so we're making the world a much more unsafe place by paying $1.2 billion a hostage, in my view.
It's interesting you bring up that interview with Saudi Arabia, the prince. He did say that we will try to get a nuclear weapon if other countries do. So, Glenn, I want to go to you on that. That's a scary thing to say, although he did, in his defense, say that he would never likely use it, but it's just more having it as attrition or having that as a way to, put yourself on the world stage with all these other countries. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, everybody is always underneath this premise that, we need nuclear power. That's what it's for. Give us all that technology. Everything's great. And then what it does is it develops into a weapon, or at least an aggressive way for people to basically wield their will anywhere they want. And if the Middle East is going to grow with nuclear capabilities, it's just going to be a cauldron that just boils up and overflows at a point that's going to cause more conflict in that region. And as we said, with the money going to Iran, supposedly from humanitarian, they're also supporting Russia in this offensive in Ukraine and giving them particular equipment and drones. So it is a problem through that entire region, and it's not going to be good for anybody.
General Holt, you brought this up earlier, but I mean, with that humanitarian, we think it's going to go to humanitarian, but likely not. But what does it do in terms of, does this now set a precedent, like for other Americans that are out there, that we basically paid a ransom, but now does this not put other Americans at risk when they're traveling, that they could possibly be kidnapped, because we know that now we're going to pay a ransom payment?
This imperiled every single American around the world, and the high-vis Americans are even more so, because these countries will go, well, look at that, we can go get money. North Korea had been doing this about 15 years ago. But again, we're projecting a weakness. And when you project a weakness that we have on this stage for a couple of years, defeat after defeat after defeat, and then you couple it with giving a rogue state that may push Israel into a place where they have no choice about a preemptive war, we just ask for more of this. If you go back to our early days, even Thomas Jefferson knew that instead of paying ransoms to the imams in the Barbary Coast, he sent Marines, and that took care of the issue.
Let's move on to this. Biden met with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in New York, and not the White House. First off, Glenn, was that a snub? And second, is the U.S.-Israel relationship deteriorating since Biden took office?
Well, I just think it was a snub. I mean, it should have been at the White House, but it was there actually at a hotel. So I thought that that was very disrespectful as far as the alliance and the relationship we have with Israel. There does seem to be a challenge to things. I mean, Israel has always been a strong partner and ally for years, and I hope that that's not going to deteriorate. But things are definitely in question, and I think this is more or less a an image to show, but I do believe it's disrespectful, and it's definitely not the way we should operate on the global stage.
And General Holt, Russian foreign minister addressed the UN Assembly, blasting the U.S. and its Western allies as an empire of lies, deliberately stoking international conflict. So this is perhaps the most pointed criticism of the U.S. Is this an indication that Russia is backed up against the wall with respect to Ukraine?
Well, I don't see Russia necessarily backed up against the wall. John, in their camp, I see a lot of pressures on Putin in the inner circle to get this war done at some state. And I think that they'll probably push for that. But on our side, we don't even check that rhetoric. We don't even have a statement of our own. And moreover, what we need to be doing is we need to put the ball into their court and say, look, we're all in New York. Let's go ahead and get together and sit down and have some talks about where we're at in this war and how we might find some common ground, if any, to try to end it.
All right. Well, thank you both for your time. General Holt, as well as Glenn Ignacio, I appreciate you both coming on here. Thank you so much.
Great to be with you.
All right, let's welcome in our special guest this week.